Snorlax, the living roadblock and garbage disposal Pokemon. Some of you probably remember Snorlax because of the anime, or because it was blocking your way from advancing in Red and Blue. At any rate, Snorlax's popularity sure has come a long way thanks to things like Pokemon Go, or maybe you bought that Snorlax beanbag chair, I don't know. Anyway, Snorlax is known to people as the big, tough, tanky, but lazy Pokemon. But how did it fare over the years in competitive formats? Let's find out. In this video, I will give a brief overview of Snorlax over each generation during these popular competitive formats. In Gen 1, Snorlax was equipped with one of the best physical attack and defense at the time, though the rest of his stats were lacking since special was still only one stat, meaning his great special defense it would receive in Gen 2 did not exist yet. Oh, trust me, we will get to Gen 2 real soon. Anyway, since normal types were generally very good due to psychic types scaring the fighting types away, Snorlax was one of the hardest hitters in the game. Snorlax was able to tank 2 Hyper Beams from Tauros, who was considered one of the best wall breakers at the time, as well as 2 Blizzards from Articuno. His main movesets consisted of either physical attacks like Hyper Beam or Earthquake, and of course Body Slam, or special attacks because it could utilize Amnesia. Amnesia at the time was like the equivalent of using 2 Calm Minds, so Snorlax would be able to power its special up to high levels before hitting its opponents with either Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. Though Snorlax was powerful, it of course was not invincible. Snorlax could be walled by the likes of Golem or Rhydon, especially if it did not carry Surf. People would often use Golem or Rhydon as switch-ins in order to take its normal hits better. It was also in contention with Tauros for best normal sweeper as they had similar movesets. Unfortunately, Tauros was most often used over it for having a better special and speed stat, allowing it to hit faster than Snorlax and hit more walls. As a wall, Amnesia kept it in contention with Chansey since Chansey had a lot more special bulk. However, Snorlax also has better physical attacks, so it really depended on the team. Either way, Snorlax was definitely one of the best Pokemon in Gen 1. Alright, Gen 2, Snorlax basically became the Meta Knight of this game, though more so for its bulk as opposed to its speed. Snorlax was the undisputed best Pokemon in Gen 2, not including the Ubers of course, because of its incredible special bulk it got, as well as the ability to rest off anything while it's set up with the move Curse. In fact, Snorlax was so bulky relative to the other Pokemon at the time, that the only thing that could take out a Snorlax in one hit without a critical hit was another Snorlax using Self-Destruct. Though Ursaring and Granbull did have higher physical attack, Snorlax got Double Edge, giving it a higher damage yield overall. Snorlax could be played in many ways. However, the most famous set was the Curse set, which usually consisted of the move Curse that increased its attack and defense but lowered speed by 1 stage, a hard-hitting normal move like Double Edge, Rest so it can't be Toxic Stalled, and Earthquake for coverage. The idea here is to cripple your opponent's Pokemon and start setting up with Curse and watch as Snorlax rips apart your opponent's Pokemon with a hard-hitting Double Edge or Earthquake. Snorlax did not have any direct counters during this time, only checks, which were Steelix and Skarmory, who could tank hits from Snorlax well and phase it out with Roar or Whirlwind. However, in a direct one-on-one, if Snorlax is the only Pokemon left, Snorlax would be free to set up with Curse and break through those Pokemon. One could try using Fighting-type Pokemon to put a dent in Snorlax, but Snorlax could also hit back hard, even unboosted. Snorlax could just fit itself on every team with its Curse set, Belly Drum set, Sleep Talk set, and whatever you could think of that would be beneficial for your team. Alright, Gen 3, Smogon Singles. Snorlax unfortunately wasn't as dominant as it was in Gen 2. Why this is, I'm gonna guess it's because you could no longer max out every stat of a Pokemon at once, and also new Gen 3 Pokemon that check Snorlax. However, it was still one of the top tiers during this time. Curselax was still very effective, especially if it's the last Pokemon on your team, because it could no longer be phased by Skarmory. Though Curse was still the most popular set, other sets like Sleep Talk, Sub Punch, and Choice Band were effective because they could utilize Snorlax as a tank to the fullest. Depending on which move it had, it could defend itself well. Though as far as good matchups go, Snorlax did not outright counter anything, but was very dangerous if it ever got a chance to set up, and it really depended on which set it was running. However, this time around, since Will-O-Wisp is the thing, Snorlax actually has a hard counter in the form of Wheezing, since it could Will-O-Wisp Snorlax to burn it, and thus cut its attack in half, and also use Haze to eliminate the stat boots of Curse without having to switch it out. Skarmory and Suicune can wall it early game again thanks to Roar. Celebi also had a good matchup versus it because it could Leech Seed and Calm Mind in its face, as well as various fighting types. Though whether or not Snorlax could handle these Pokemon really depended on the set, besides Wheezing. Either way, Snorlax was still a great threat. Alright, Gen 3 Jump Festa doubles. Just like with Starmie, I only really have these videos to go off of because there's very little information about 2005 Pokemon meta. But anyway, it looked like Snorlax had a set similar to its VGC days. However, I do not know whether or not it used Belly Drum or Curse during this time, so I will just put both of them here as possibilities. It probably could also carry Self-Destruct to do massive damage to everything except Ghost types, and it could Shadow Ball the Ghost types it could not hit with its normal moves. Again, it looks like it did not outright counter anything directly besides special users, but if it could set up, it could run train. Alright, Gen 4, Snorlax continued to be a top tier thanks to its bulk. However, as the metagame progressed, more Pokemon that resist normal types showed up and Snorlax found itself resisted by a third of the metagame. Surprise surprise, Cursed Snorlax was the most popular set to use, though again it had a lot of sets. Its main niche in the overused meta was that it could come in on special attackers and begin setting up. Unfortunately though, more hard counters to Snorlax showed up with the advent of powerful fighting types such as Infernape and Lucario, in addition to better moves from Machamp and Heracross, who could all take out Snorlax. If Snorlax didn't carry Fire Punch, it could also get walled by Bronzong and Fortress. And it could also be 2-hit KO'd by Metagross and Mamoswine with their stab moves thanks to Life Orb. Snorlax still found a place amongst the top tiers because of its ability to set up on special attackers, but it definitely went down significantly in usage than the previous gens. In Gen 4 Double, Snorlax was actually used similarly to how it's being currently used in Gen 7, as a late game belly drum trick room sweeper. It was even in a couple of finals matches during certain regionals in VGC 2009. The idea is to partner with a Pokemon like Dusknoir who could set up Trick Room and then switch Snorlax in. Pokemon with Psych Up like Dusknoir or Spiritomb could even copy its maximized attack stat after a belly drum. Since Trick Room is up, Snorlax being super slow would go first and begin to sweep with its partner. It's also a plus that it's a special tank since special users were pretty rampant during Gen 4 VGC, so Snorlax actually saw a decent amount of usage amongst players. Alright, Gen 5 Smogon OU. Snorlax unfortunately dropped down to the underused tier. Despite finding a niche as a special tank against Sun teams since weather teams were everywhere, more fast fighting types were added during the meta like Terrakion and Keldeo. Snorlax could easily be taken out very quickly by these Pokemon. Because a curse set would be too slow, the choice band set was preferred instead if anyone ever used Snorlax in OU. Though it was not a low tier Pokemon by any means, it was just too slow to compete with the fast-paced metagame at the time. But at least it was great and underused. In Gen 5 VGC, Snorlax reprised its role as a Trick Room sweeper. Its main partners were obviously ones that could carry Trick Room, so Psychic types, as well as Redirectors. Though this time it seemed to be not used nearly as much, as it was still very weak to the fighting types in VGC. And finally, Gen 6, Snorlax was once again placed in underuse and did not see much usage in OU. Since there isn't much information on why this is in a specific source, I theorize that it is for the same reasons as Gen 5. The metagame became too fast and fighting types were a lot more prominent. Also, as far as special walls go, Chansey was most likely preferred over it since it could take more hits. But hey, again, at least it was one of the best walls in underuse. And that's it! So how did Snorlax do? Well, it was top tier for the first 4 generations, but it gradually dropped off into high to mid tiers in Gens 5 and 6. Snorlax's bulk gave it an edge early on, but as more faster Pokemon kept getting added, it began to drop off since it doesn't have the best speed or physical defense. But at least it is seeing usage in Gen 7 VGC though, for now. Thanks for watching everyone. Now before you go, I have a question for you. I like doing these videos a lot, but I want to bring some variety to this channel. I have some Smash content in the works, but as far as other Pokemon content, or really other games in general I guess, what other type of content would you like to see me do? Let me know in the comment section below, and of course, as usual, comment on which Pokemon you want me to cover next. Alright, peace out everyone.